2010, I bought a 2007 Audi A4, and it came with this fish scale aluminum trim, which looked good at the time, but over time it hasn't aged very well. And it's got a lot of scratches and dimples. So I decided that I wanted to wrap it with something, and I've seen a lot of different people use a lot of different things. Mostly it's a vinyl carbon fiber wrap, and I think carbon fiber is kind of overdone, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I decided to wrap mine with a black suede. You can see in this clip that the aluminum butts right up against the black trim, and I wanted to avoid the suede bunching up against that, so I decided to remove the trim completely. The trim measures at about 0.8 mil, and the suede measures roughly 0.6 mil. So they're roughly the same thickness, and I think it'll just make a better fit if I remove the fish scale completely. First thing I had to do was remove the Quattro emblem, and I did that with a Dremel by grinding off the plastic in the back. Took a little bit of time on the grinding, but I figured if I would go slow and careful, it would be less chance of messing it up. Then after getting the lip of the plastic off, a screwdriver was allowed me to push the pins out of the back, and then the emblem came right off the front really easily. Next thing to do was to actually remove the aluminum trim. This was going to be a destructive process, there's no way I could reuse it. So I just used some vice grips, peeled it off all the way around like this, pretty simple. Still being very careful because the underlying material is plastic, and it would be pretty easy if I grabbed on the end to snap the plastic. So once you get it all bent back, the trim comes off really easily, and you can see the plastic underneath is just a smooth black plastic. And in order to get the glue to stick, I decided to scuff up the plastic, and I think I'm just using 80 or 100 grit here. Going over the whole top surface, making sure I'm getting a good scuffing so that the glue can get a good bite. It's also important to go right around to the back side. Getting right around to the back side means that the glue is going to stick when you wrap it around the edge. The next thing to do was to cut my suede. Putting the part on for a rough measurement. This piece was about twice as large when I started, and that entire piece cost only about $80 Canadian. I used a ruler in order to be able to make a straight line. I just marked it with a paint pen. After marking it, just a simple pair of scissors to cut to size, making sure that you don't cut anything underneath. Before you glue it, you want to wipe it down with an isopropyl alcohol. This is ABS plastic, and some chemicals will be able to melt the plastic, and isopropyl alcohol will remove all the impurities and leave you with a good surface in order for the glue to bind. Here I'm practicing laying the plastic down onto the piece, and you can see I'm using kind of a rolling motion. And I'm just using a heavy-duty rubber cement. I looked into using different 3M spray adhesives, but they all seem to have a lot of complaints. People would say that with heat things would delaminate. With this one, the big problem is that you get one chance to lay it down. You cannot peel this off and relay the suede. Once it's touched the first time, it is permanent. Here I'm just using a foam brush to lay the glue out. I'm doing it fairly quickly. You don't want to really paint over your the areas you've already put glue down, unless you have a good amount on the brush. Otherwise, you will start to peel up the first layer of glue that you put down. I put it on fairly thick. I wanted to make sure that there was enough there that it could absorb into the suede and still have enough of on a surface to actually bind to the plastic as well. Carefully remove the tape that's around the suede. With this piece in particular, you can't roll it all the way, which means I had to halfway through flip everything over in order to continue sticking the piece down. Here I'm just testing the glue to make sure that it's dry before laying the part on. Here I'm a little nervous. You can see again that I just kind of let one end touch first and then roll the piece down. And the piece kind of curves towards the table, so I have to stop halfway and perform a flip maneuver, and being very careful that when I do this, none of the suede actually touches any other part of the plastic. This is really the most critical part here. You want to make sure that you get a good roll down. So I'm using my fingers to make sure that no creases form. Roll it down from the center, and then at that point forward, now you can just kind of press it all the way around to make sure you get good contact up on the sides. And the suede has a little bit of give to it, which is why I use suede instead of Alcantara. The suede naturally is a little bit stretchy, and it allows an easy way to go around the curves. The next step is to cut off the extra and then very gently wrap it around. You don't really want to run your thumb down the side. That's a recipe for creating wrinkles. So you just kind of wrap it over in a few little areas and tack it down. Once it's tacked down, you kind of press it all the way along. Put good pressure on to get a good tight seal on the glue. Around the edges and corners, you want to cut reliefs into the suede. Like right here, I'm cutting reliefs in. And this makes it wrap a little bit better when you're going around the curves. I recommend using a fresh razor blade, and then in some areas it's just easier to use scissors. Make sure your scissors are clean and they cut well. Scissors tend to stick to the glue in the suede a little bit, so it's not a bad idea to have some rubbing alcohol or acetone on hand in order to clean the scissor blades. Here I'm cutting out the front where the emblem goes. Want to make a little bit of a relief so that when I push the emblem in, the suede doesn't provide any tension behind it and try to push it off. And then just dry fitting the emblem on the front. And the next thing to do was to glue it in, and I glued it in with some JB Weld using the original pins that I originally ground off from the melted plastic from the factory. Once the JB Weld is dry, which is about an hour, I got the quick set. The only thing left to do was install it back into the car, and this is what it looks like. I think it's a very unique look. It's got a bit of a texture and feel to it, and definitely unique. I've not seen another car that has this. If you have any questions, leave comments down below and I will get back to you with whatever answers I can. Thanks very much for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.